I've been involved in developing leaders for 20 plus years, whether it is as a supervisor, developing my people, as a trainer, as a facilitator, as an instructional designer. I've been doing leadership development for a while, and I want to talk a little bit about why I don't like to talk about leadership development anymore. To me, it seems to perhaps do more harm than good, because when we talk about leadership, immediately people think of, well, leaders have to have followers. I don't want to get into management. I don't want to be the man. And so they avoid leadership development. Now, I know many of you will say, yeah, but everybody's leaders. You don't know that unless you've been to a leadership development course. And while I was training leaders in a large corporation, people would come through and they wouldn't want to be in management. They don't want the supervisor position. They want to be on the front lines. That's what they want. And as soon as you talk about leadership development, they think that it's the transition into management. But the thing is, the best, the skilled old pros, they are doing the things already that we teach in leadership development. So I would oftentimes go and help facilitate leadership conferences for different sorts of businesses. And they would always bring somebody in, an old pro, an old salt, who would sit there and listen. I'd usually be sitting near them or next to them, and they'd lean over to say, I do this stuff, I just don't call it that. Or when I was doing the first leadership class that new supervisors would take, sometimes there'd be somebody who'd been around for 15 years that decided they finally wanted to get into management. They'd be sitting in the courses and saying to themselves, I've been doing this for years. I just didn't know what to call it. So the reason I don't like talking about leadership development isn't because it's a bad thing. It's because it puts off really, really important skills and competencies for when you first start to get into the management track. So I want to share, this is how I picture it. So we know that we have this grid, and on the bottom of this, the x-axis is tenure. The y-axis is the level of competency needed in a couple of different areas. We oftentimes will bring people in, frontline, first-time employees, brand new. We think it's really important that they have those technical skills, and it is. It's crucial that they do. But over time, as they're with an organization, those technical skills become less important. It's more of a given, more of a threshold. If you don't have them, you can't be there. So the importance of that level of competency becomes less as they're with an organization. This is also true as you go up through an organization, whether it's the time with an organization or the level that you're in it. The skill level and technical ability becomes less and less important. But when we talk about professional skills, and I call these professional skills instead of leadership skills because they're the same set of competencies that will make you valuable to any organization across the board, and they're separate from the technical skills. So we'll call them professional skills. Frontline people, first-time employees, people brand new at the front lines, the professional skills aren't nearly as important as the technical skills. But through their tenure with an organization, these skills become more and more important. So this is why I want to take a closer look at even using the term leadership development. Perhaps we could start right from the very beginning. We can start teaching people the language of professional development instead of couching it in leadership development. Then as part of their onboarding, we start to talk to them about their expectations about being professional. And you're using the same language that you use when you get into the leadership courses. The competencies are the same, but the context is a little bit different. When I talk about these, and think about what you teach in leadership development tends to center around communication, emotional intelligence, networking, critical thinking, all these things. Well, they're not just limited to the use of leaders. You want your frontline people, the people out interacting with your customers and doing the skills or doing the service, You want them to be able to practice these things, not only for the customers, but for staff, for the employee morale. So I've come to start talking about professional acumen rather than leadership development. This is what I mean by professional acumen. So you need to have skills and competencies on how to manage and become aware of yourself. You need to have that same awareness and management of the relationships with the people around you. You also need to know the context and have the competencies in order to know your business. So the concept of professional acumen being the ability to problem solve, make decisions, and execute in any particular domain. Professional domain, and in these three areas of self, people, and business. Imagine if you could start giving them the language around these competencies right when they walk in the door, and there's not this big new language they have to learn to become a leader. I'm a big believer in staff development from the start. And I'm also a big believer that if you have a shared language, that development is going to go much faster. So if you start from the very start of somebody coming into your organization, you start teaching them about professional acumen and use that same language, just shifting the context and perhaps a few of the specific skills, but the competencies are all the same. From the start to the finish, throughout their tenure, they'll become more and more valuable to your organization. And as an individual, if you can start to develop and master the professional acumen competencies, you'll be valuable to any organization you go to.